Good morning guys, I'm Chris and welcome back to this Sunday's episode of Rift Amps. Just cracking on with the service on the Cornford MK50 Mark II. This is the one, the Golden Special, the reference unit from the factory. Really cool to have it in. I've just pulled it out of the case, the cabinet, sorry. So chassis is now up on this workbench. I've just pulled off the lower cover and I noticed there is some fluid along this edge, but not on this one. So there's something going on there. So we'll clean all that up. But I think our problems may be more severe than that, because if I come over and show you the mains input wire, I might have to shift you over so you can see more clearly. That fluid is also on there. So I don't think, I mean, that's got a split in it as well, you can see. Yeah, I think it's water. Maybe not. Smells vinegary. Something's got in there. And this is a classic example of why, when you pull an amp out of storage, you don't just fire it up. You give it a visual inspection first, because something has got in there. I hope it's not wee. Doesn't smell like wee. Something's leaked in there. Oh, actually, maybe it is. Oh, I don't know. I don't know, but yeah, that's not good. We'll clean it all up. What should we use? What should we use? Better brake cleaner, I think. You know. Yeah, it's definitely sticky, so it's not water. What's been going on? Oh, that's interesting. Let me get you a better shot. Looks like some kind of blue liquid. So as I was just cleaning it, this boot came off, and I'm sure this one will come off too if I give it a pull. There you go. It's full of something. What's going on? So it's all wet around this area. Zoom you out slightly. It was all wet around here. We've definitely got some weird fluid going on. I wonder what it is. There's no sign of it in the cabinet, but it's definitely sticky. And it's got a vinegary smell. So is that acid or alkali? I can't remember. There's definitely something weird going on there, isn't there? Right. I'm going to get all of this cleaned up and then carry on with my visual inspection. More things you don't want to see. Both of the... Oh, actually, no, just the one. Sorry. This output valve socket, you can see it's got a crack in it there. And that comes right from the top all the way through. And if I come over the top with it, you can see it comes out this side of the pin as well. So pin 1 has got a crack all the way through the socket. So that socket is going to need to be replaced. And there you go, that's a top side view of the damage to that socket. You can see it's chipped away. That one's all right. But that one is knackered. There it is then. So let's take this thing out of its mount. Can you see? You can see. I know this sounds silly, but I don't want to break it getting it out, because I want it to be intact, so I can show you. Okay, so that's a better view then, isn't it? Hopefully. Interestingly, it did have a crack on the other side too, all the way through the socket. And that's what your pin looks like, for those that have not seen one before. So this side here is what your valve pins connect into, and obviously your soldering end and your wire end here. Okay, new valve socket in, rest of the service done, all biased up, currently running EL34s. You can see the thing on the scope there. This view, here's the foot switch. So you can see the channels change works. Good as the master. The overdrive, go back to that channel. Sorry. Overdrive boost works. And so do the effects loops. Cool. So everything's working as intended. It's been running on the bench now for about an hour and 15 minutes. Come back to the clean channel. It's super quiet. It's noise free. I haven't had to change any components inside. There's no hum. There's no fail caps. There's no leaky caps. There's no resistors out of spec. The only thing I had to change was that valve socket, which is... I never have to replace components on Cornfords, really. They just seem to be as bulletproof is. So, because this amp was sat for such a long time, and obviously in possibly damp conditions, I'm going to give it until the end of the day today, which will be, it's 1:15 now. So if I turn it off, so I'll give it another 4 hours of running in crazy mode, and hopefully it will pass and it'll be okay, and we can stick it back in the cabinet and the customer can have it back. But I see no issue with it. It's running great, it sounds great, it's doing everything it wants to. The EL34 is biased up properly. I've tried it with a set of 6L6 as well. They bias up fine as well, although a little cooler than I'd like, but it always is a compromise. Yeah, nothing really more to report. It's fine, it's great, it's good. And I think the customer will be very pleased with it. I messed up. I don't know how, but I messed up my stop control. I thought I had built one more Alysium than I actually had, because I was showing one of them on the shelf. I built a bunch of them last year to build up stock, and they've just been slowly selling over past couple of months. the last 6 months or so, whatever it's been. I was down to the last one. It sold. Someone placed an order for it through the website, and I went to go and ship it, and there's none there. And I don't know what happened, because I rarely make mistakes like that. So either I've lost an Alysium or I've miskeyed it in my stock control. Anyway, I'm having to build another, which is fine because I love doing these. They're great fun. So yeah, I'm just going through the motion on this 6 inches of blue. Sorry, yeah. Going through the motions, getting this one built up. It's off to somewhere in America. I can't tell you where. But yeah, it's been a good pedal for me, the Alysium. Nice low gain fuzz. Does some really cool sounds. I'm a big fan of it. I'm really glad that I designed it, prototyped it, built it, developed it, released it. I also need 5 inches of red. So yeah, it's been doing well for me. This one is serial number 168. So considering I'm an amplifier manufacturer and the pedals are just something I do, just a bit of extra, just to add and to do something cool, add something to the lineup, you know. Yeah, this is, as I said, number 168. So I've done quite a few now. You know, and they're fun to do, and I do enjoy them, and it's a really cool pedal. So yeah, if you've not seen one before, they're properly fully hand wired, as you can see. So I'm just working through all this bits and pieces. So the next thing will be input jacks, input and output jacks. So I'll get those installed, and we'll get this one finished and built and out to the customer. I've just finished up building this Dexter. Now this Dexter is my own demo unit that I needed. So anyway, I've just finished building it up, and I'm just burning it in on the bench, and I've just been doing a little bit of messing around, dialing it in, getting it to where I want it. I've made some slight revisions to the circuit design and the specs a little bit. Just update it, as I always do with stuff. Just, you know, always trying to improve things, as I always am. Anyway, I've got it running on the bench, and I thought, let's do some myth busting, some experimentation. Let's see if we can get some answers to some questions, and some you mustn't ever do this, and you must always do this, that kind of stuff. Why not? Let's have a bit of fun. Amp's running on the bench, and what I've done is, it's a cathode biased amplifier, and it has a single shared cathode resistor for both output valves, okay, which is a standard configuration for most cathode biased amplifiers. I think 5E3 Tweed Deluxes and stuff like that. Okay, and what I've done is I've got the CompuBias all plugged in, set up, and running. And if I zoom you in, you can see these two 6V6s, sorry. We've got approximately 315 volt anode to cathode voltage. Our cathode current is hovering around 40 milliamps each. So they're dissipating about 12.5 watts. And these JJs are 14 watters. So, but this will be appropriately biased for a set of 12 watt 6V6s as well. All right, so they're pretty closely matched, as you can see from our measurements. And if I bring you up to the scope, what I'm going to do, because we need to keep all the variables the same, is we're going to be doing our testing with our 1 kilohertz sine wave going into the amplifier at 150 millivolts going in, and we're measuring. And what I've done, I've set this to 5 volts output, okay, which is quite low. So it's only about 3 watts into 8 ohms. But what I wanted to do was get a nice clean zoom in on the sine wave, so we can see what happens when we start messing around. What we're going to do is we are going to start swapping out one of the 6V6s to different ones. And we're going to find out how mismatched you can actually go before we start to actually run into problems. Now, general rule of thumb is that vendors will tell you, and I always say as well, that valves are considered to be matched if they're within 5 milliamps of anode current or cathode current, whichever one you want to use, at idle, right? And that's generally how these things are matched. As long as you're within 5 milliamps of each other, you're considered to be matched. And these, as we saw on the CompuBias, with no signal going in, one's at 40 and the other one's fluttering between 39 and 40, so it's probably 39.8 or something. When I did the manual bias calculations, I worked it out as 39.6, so there you go. So let's swap one of these things out, see, using the CompuBias, how far apart the matching now is, and see what effect that has on our output sine wave. Okay, so we're going to swap out this one, and as far as the probes are concerned, this is probe number 2 on the CompuBias. So that's a JJ6V6S, that's the one I've just taken out, and that's matching the one that we're leaving in the amplifier. So what we're going to do is now put in another JJ6V6, and this one was graded by TubeAmp Doctor with a 5, whatever that means. So let's plug this thing in, and as you can see, it's not come online yet. Here we go. No real change, to be honest. The numbers have ended up pretty much where we were. I mean, the new valve is biasing slightly cooler, under 12 watts now, with slightly less plate current. Our anode to cathode voltage has dropped slightly. Just letting this thing warm up, so I'll give it some time and then we'll come back. Okay, so after about 5 minutes of warming up, it's now settled down. Our original valve is running pretty much where it was before, 40 milliamps, 12.5 watts. That's roughly where it was. The plate current has dropped. It was at 315 before. Now it's come down slightly. Our replacement valve is about 2 milliamps less and slightly lower on the wattage. So there is now a slight difference. We are getting a change in the matching of the two valves. So let's now insert our sine wave. Haven't touched the controls. There's our output sine wave. We're still doing 5 volts and it's still looking fairly symmetrical. So one valve will be doing 1/2 plus a bit more, and the other valve will be doing the other half. And as you can see, it's looking pretty symmetrical. So that's good, right? Okay. What I'll do is I'll just write the numbers down. Let's get you back here. So now we're going to have JJ, we'll call that TAD 5. Valve 1, which is our one that's staying stable, is now reading 312 and 40. But the replacement valve is 310 and 38. All right. So we're now 2 milliamps mismatched, and we haven't seen the difference on the scope, which is what we expect. Easy. Here we have a TubeAmp Doctor 6V6. Now these are made in a different factory to the JJs. This one has got a plate current rating of 32 and a transconductance rating of 475. So again, TubeAmp Doctor have graded this valve, as they see fit. So let's plug this thing in, watch it come up on the CompuBias. In fact, can I get it all in one shot? Yes, I think I can. Let's plug this one in and let's see what happens. So as you can see, this one has now biased up slightly hotter than our reference valve. 2 milliamps difference again, but this time it's gone the other way. You can see how that's affected this one as well. Bear in mind, all of that total current is going through one resistor. But you can see what that's doing. Still matched, even though it's a completely different valve. Okay, so this is the JJ in one socket and the TAD 6v6 GT STR in the other. Looks fine to me. Maybe I'm seeing a slightly different. So we call it 1, 2, 3, 4. No, 1, 2, 3, 4.5 width there, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and a bit there on the top half. So we're getting a difference in that direction. You see, so this top peak is broader than it is down here. Isn't that interesting? Yeah, that's quite noticeable on the scope now. So we've definitely got different characteristics in the way that these two valves are performing. To prove I'm not making it up, there they are. 1 JJ, 1 TAD. I don't think I've ever seen that before. That's really interesting. A noticeable difference. Okay, right, let's carry on, shall we? I genuinely didn't expect to see that. That's fascinating. That is fascinating. Right, take that one out. Next up, we have another TAD. This is one of their black glass ones. I think they're Russian made. 6v6 GTB STR with a plate current of 29, transconductance of 452. What I'm hoping for is quite a vast difference in plate current. Oh, now we're talking. Come on, stay apart. Okay, so that's what it's settled in at now then. We are 4 milliamps apart. So what are we going to see now? Now we've got a larger gulf between the two valves. Are we going to see that strange output behavior? Yeah, we're still doing 5 volts output. So the amplifier isn't changing its output power. But again, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4.5 on this half. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.5 on the top. So clearly the top ones definitely have, whichever valve is on the top half, the positive half of the sine wave, is it's conducting the signal for longer. Okay, sorry, but we lost the audio for this section. I don't know why, but what I wanted to do was to see how far we could actually mismatch the valves in this amplifier. Easiest way to do that is to try a different valve entirely. So let's have a 6v6 in one slot and a 5881, which is from the 6L6 family, in the other. Here it is, a TAD 5881 WXT. The power transformer has enough capability to actually run this valve, so no concerns there. But we're going to plug it in. Here's the CompuBias, and we're going to see what numbers actually come up, how it looks on the output sine wave. So plugged in there, warming up. Quite a slow warm up on this one, actually, I did notice. Took a lot longer than the 6v6s did. But when it starts going, you can see numbers are ramping up now, and we end up with quite a large difference in plate current or cathode current. So you can see the 6v6 is running about 31 milliamps now. It's not running as much current as it was before. The 5881 up at 55 milliamps. Okay, and there they are in the amp. Doesn't that look absolutely ridiculous? I've never seen anything so stupid in my life. But there we go. So once they're all fully warmed up and settled down, you've got 30 on the 6v6 and 56 on the 5881. Biased at around 17 watts and 9 watts on the 6v6. So what's that? A 26 milliamp difference. So we are super mismatched now. We haven't got a matched set of valves at all, both in current running through them and in the actual physical characteristics of the valve. So let's have a look at this output sine wave, see what it does. Again, we're going to inject our standard signal. Wow, look at that. Okay, so the top half of the signal, as I worked out, was the 6v6. The bottom half was the 5881, and as you can see now, it's boosted the output of the bottom half of the signal to, and it's coming off the bottom of the screen now, so we do have more output on that half of the sine wave. Isn't that fascinating? Really, I've not quite seen that before. The narrow bandwidth, as I'm calling it, of that bottom peak seems to be consistent across all of these mismatched valves, which I don't think I've ever seen before. I need to do some more research into what causes that. It'd be interesting to work out whether it's actually the top 6v6, the top half is running as it should be, or if the problem might be on that side. Don't know. Anyway, what we're going to do is we're going to do some sound samples. We're going to compare the clean of both configurations, 2 6v6s and then 1 6v6, 1 6L6, the crunch, and then the overdrive. Let me know in the comments down below what you think, whether you liked the sound of the mismatched valves or not, whether you preferred the sound of 2 6v6s as the amp is intended to run. Personally, I didn't like it. I could definitely hear some strange artifacts going on. Not sure where they're coming from yet, but clearly the amp couldn't do what it was trying to do properly. It was being almost held back by this. It was fighting with itself almost, which I found very, very interesting. I don't think everyone's ever done this before, so who knows what to expect, what we were going to find. To answer the question then, can you run mismatched valves, even different valve types in a cathode biased amplifier? Yes, you can. Should you? I don't think so. There's nothing to gain from it. Let me know down below what you think. Well, that's it then, guys. Thank you very much for watching once again. As always, please give this video a thumbs up, or your comments and questions down below. Subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the notification bell so you know when new videos come out. If you're feeling super generous like these guys were, think about joining the channel, and I will catch you all at the next one. So if you're wondering what I'm up to, I am taking the race car, see it in the back there, off to its pre-season championship dyno run. So the series that I race in, and I've been racing in for the last 6 seasons, has been granted championship status for 2025, which I have been asking for a long time, and I'm so excited that it's no longer just a series, which means literally a series of standalone races. Now there's going to be a cumulative score and they're going to crown a champion at the end of the season. So it's something I've always wanted to do, put myself in for, challenge myself up against other people over the course of a full season, and it's finally happened this year, and I can't wait. So the classes, there are 4 classes in the championship that I race in, and each class is based on a certain power to weight ratio, and the class I'm in, class D, there's A, B, C and D. Class D is 145 horsepower, and that's measured at the flywheel, per ton of weight, 1,000 kilograms. And so if your car produces 145 horsepower, your minimum weight is 1,000 kilograms. If you have more power than that, then your minimum weight will be higher. And if you have less power than 145, then your minimum weight will be lower. And it actually produces some really close racing. And as most of you know, or regular viewers of the channel will know, that I'm always fighting at the front of the class for race wins and podiums. So I've always been at the front. And since they announced it's getting championship status, I made the decision that I'm going to leave no stone unturned to win that championship. Not just the class championship, but the overall championship as well. So I'm going for it. I'm going for it big time. One thing to note is that driver weight is not included in that calculation. So the minimum weight they give you is the car without driver. So my car, when it's on low fuel, so after a race, when it's got warm tyres on it, warm brakes, it's used a bit of oil, it's used a bit of coolant, it's in its lowest weight condition, as it were, is 917 kilograms. And if you can then manipulate the equation, that means that my maximum horsepower is 133 for the car. So what I'm doing today is taking it for a dyno run on the championship dyno, and they're going to measure the power of the car, and I need it to be exactly 133. Now, why exactly 133 and not 134, for example? Good question. Well, because of the power to weight formula that we run, each horsepower that you're over what you should be means I'll have to carry an extra 6.9, let's call it 7 kilograms of weight. And with motorsport, lightness is everything. Extra power, 1 horsepower, isn't going to make much difference on track, but 7 kilograms is. Power only affects one state condition, which is acceleration. Weight, or having less weight, affects acceleration, braking and turning. So you'd rather have less horsepower and be lighter than you would having more power and more weight. And so we call it chasing the weight. We're always trying to make sure that we are running as light as possible. So today we're going to the dyno, probably going to do 3 runs, but what I've got my laptop with me, the tuning laptop, and we're going to do an initial power run, see where it is, and if it's overpowered, I'm going to take a little power out of it, and if it's underpowered, I'm going to add a little bit back in, because I always want to be at the maximum horsepower I'm allowed and at the minimum weight. So the idea is that after a qualifying session or the race, when you come off track, you go into what they call parc ferme, where you can't touch the car or do anything until they release you. And at that point, they can choose to either power test you at the circuit, which they do regularly, and they can weigh you. And I need to be at all times above my minimum weight, but ideally as close to it as possible. So, yeah, I know my car is minimum weight is 917, so 133 is my target horsepower. Incidentally, those who know about Mazdas, I've actually fitted a more powerful engine to mine, and we detuned it to get it exactly where I want to be. So my car doesn't produce a peak horsepower, it produces that power quite early on in the power curve, and then we run it all the way along to the rev limit. So whatever gear I'm running in at race speeds, I've always got my maximum power. It's quite clever. So we're going to get all that confirmed today on the dyno. We're going to tweak it if we need to be. Then I've got my printout, my official printout that says this is how much power my car makes. I submit that to the club, and then they will use that as a reference point throughout the year to make sure I'm exactly where I need to be. Isn't that exciting? So also thanks to quite a few of you lately who have noticed that I have lost quite a bit of weight over the last 6 months, and that is deliberate. It's not an illness or anything like that. Since they announced that it's going to be a championship, I realised, I knew I was carrying more ballast than I needed to be, and because driver weight isn't included, the lighter I can get myself, the faster I will go. And unlike the rest of the UK, I don't weigh myself in stone. I weigh myself in kilograms, because that's what we use in racing. And so I've lost so far 22 kilograms. So that's going to be 68, 69 pounds. Just the 3.3 stone, if you're interested in that kind of stuff. So far, got more to go. Now that, at the moment, coincidentally, is the equivalent of all of the race fuel that I use during a 45-minute race. My car uses 27 litres of fuel during a 45-minute race. So if I was racing this weekend, I would now be starting races at the same rolling weight than I used to end races. So I'm going to be going faster. And when you are racing, at the end of the race, you always set your fastest laps, because the tyres are perfect, they're up to temperature, your pressures are bang on, and the car is lighter, so you are obviously travelling faster. So yeah, good news. I've still got some way to go to get to the target weight I want, but we'll keep going. But yeah, I'm going to show you some dyno footage, show you the printout, maybe show you the tuning on the laptop. We'll see what we need to do. But it's in the dyno I'm going to is in Bletchley, which is where Marshall Amplification is. So I'm going over there now, car on the trailer. We'll stick it on the dyno, we'll get some runs done, see what it's measuring, and we'll go from there. done then. So it ended up being slightly underpowered, which happens sometimes. It could be the dyno, could be the way the wind is blowing, all that kind of stuff. But we got 3 pretty consistent measurements. Two measurements that were consistent. So then I tried to add a bit more power in, which worked, and we got it up in the end to 130.8 horsepower at the flywheel. And the way it does it is it takes 2 measurements. It measures the power at the wheels, and then it measures the drag on what they call coast down. So they rev the car up, do its power run, and then they measure how much force it takes to turn the wheels and the gearbox and the flywheel and all that kind of stuff. And they subtract one number from the other, and that gives you your calculated number. And then they apply a correction factor to give you a figure. And as you saw, this one ended up being 130.8. So we'll call it 131, which is the number I'm going to submit to the club. I'm not going to miss 2 horsepower, but it does mean now my minimum weight is going to be about 904 kilograms. So that's from 917 down to 904 is 13 kilos. And I'll definitely take a 13 kilo drop if possible. Absolutely. Because it means I can now run one of the really lightweight motorsport batteries, because they're a 10 kilo saving. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pull the standard battery off the car. Why do you keep rotating? And run a motorsport battery and run 10 kilos lighter, which absolutely, why wouldn't you do that? So yeah, quite pleased with that. No problem at all. So I'm going to submit that to the club on Sunday at the official test day. I'm not taking the car up there. I'm just popping up to see everyone. And that's it, locked in, ready for the season ahead. Thanks for watching.